welcome to Nerd Sports. Today we're going to talk about water, synchronized swimming.
Synchronized swimming, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's prettier when the women do it.
Oh,
It's
okay.
when dudes do it, I mean it's almost like the dance number at the end of Blazing Saddles. It's just not good enough.
I don't know, that dance thing was actually really good. So, anyways, actual sports.
Well, it's a good thing they keep the pools cool for a reason. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, for the guys. I was talking. We were talking about before we started. It's like, man, there's some men out there. Even if the water is cold, it still looks like a mallet.
Yeah, I'm just not going to dive into that.
Okay. Moving on. The main thing for this weekend for sports is the NFL draft. That's going to be this weekend.
Yeah.
We're going to do a little research. The only thing I got from that is, I got to bring it up. I forgot to bring it up.
Yeah. Well, while you're doing that, we'll try to unpack a little bit of this here. There was a UFC pay-per-view on Saturday night. UFC 261. Chris Weidman shattered his leg during the fight.
Oh, yeah.
When I think more specifically, he shattered his ankle. It was a fight that he had with Uriah Hall, and like literally there was one strike in the entire fight, and that was when Weidman opened up with a leg strike, and it was he hit Hall's leg just below the knee, and as soon as he pulled his leg back and it made contact with the mat, I mean, it just snapped on him.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is the women's UFC.
Yeah, I didn't do a lot of breakdown for the UFC fights this past weekend, but Weidman, what's kind of you know how we're like, the longer you watch sports, you'll start to see more and more parallels, right?
Yeah.
The parallel from the UFC fight was Weidman himself was involved in another fight with Anderson Silva back in UFC 168. And Silva had the same type of leg injury fighting Weidman.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so I mean,
Is he like Ironwood or something like that?
No. It's like you see those videos just kind of like down in the basement of YouTube where you look up like kickboxing videos, and you'll see guys that like they'll do shin strikes, and the other guy's doing the same thing. So they're on the same page, and they're going to shin strike each other. Shins will make contact, and one guy or both guys' shins will snap.
Yeah.
And you'll see that bottom half of the leg just kind of move in a very unnatural wobble.
I'm glad I didn't have that when I was playing soccer because we did it a lot. But Zhang Weili was the women's UFC championship. I don't got that much on her. But from what I heard, it was a good fight. I missed the fight because I ended up having to do like 50,000 different things that weekend.
Yeah, one of these weekends, I mean, we're just going to have to kind of sit down, and one of us, one or both of us, we're going to have to chip in. We're just going to have to bite the bullet and just buy the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I got a guy.
Yeah, you got a guy. All right, yeah, cool. All right. You were talking about the NFL draft, and that is coming up this weekend. So
Jerry Jones is already set to draft. From what they're saying, it's not, but he wants to draft Kyle Pitts. I think he's a Georgia, University of Georgia, the Gators.
No, the Bulldogs. Well, you said
No,
Gators.
no,
So that's
it's
University
Gators.
of Florida.
University of Florida.
Yeah. I squad leader from way back in the day. He absolutely hates the University of Florida. So, yeah. So, Chip, you ever watch this? Go Noles. I mean, God, I feel dirty even saying that, but whatever. It's better than saying go Gators. So, anyhow. I mean, it's supposed to be like a pretty quarterback heavy, draft this year. Well, not quarterback heavy, but like a wide receiver heavy draft. And the first 3-4 picks from every mock draft that I've seen, they're projected to go quarterback. No brainer here. Trevor Lawrence.
Well, this guy's a tight end.
Right. No, I'm just saying though. They're going to need a tight end because, I mean, I can't remember who it is off the top of my head that plays tight end for the Cowboys now, but he's okay, but he's not explosive. He doesn't have that separation ability. Um, he, they just don't build him like they used to do, like with Frank Wycheck or Jay Novacek. They don't build him like that anymore, or even Jason Witten to an extent. But but Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback coming out of Clemson, the dude's only lost like 2 games since high school.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I mean, he's just going to have to come to grips with the reality that he's going to lose a lot more games, especially because Jacksonville is going to draft him. They're projected to draft him number 1 overall. So I mean, it's just a thing. The Jets are supposed to take Zach Wilson, a quarterback from Brigham Young, number 2 overall. Basically, the Sam Darnold era in New York. It's kind of over. I mean, not that you could ever call it an era because it's not like he was an explosive personality. I mean, the New York Jets, they're almost on the same level as the Cleveland Browns as far as like drafting quarterbacks. It's almost where promising careers go to die.
Yeah, because even if you look at the statistics of it, I just can't believe they came out with that word fully.
Statistics?
Yeah, I said the word. Most of the first draft picks, they're crap.
Well,
I think
over the last few years.
Well, Tom Brady was the actual first draft pick.
No, he wasn't. Tom Brady went like 6th round or something like that. But now is this draft going to have a diamond in the rough? One of those hidden gems like a Tom Brady. I don't know. Maybe not. I mean, it's all going to be what team drafts that particular player. What kind of a system does that player get put into? The interaction with the coaching staff, this, that, the other. I mean,
wow, no, you weren't even close.
Was it like 12th round or something like that?
199.
No,
that's what it's saying.
199th pick overall, but what round did he go in? And that's usually going to be like, I think he was a 6th round pick.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But
because you've got every team gets a pick, so you're going to get like number 1 pick overall. Like this year's going to be Trevor Lawrence, and whatever, and I think it's like 30 or 31 or 30. I think there's 30 teams. Don't get me wrong, but yeah. Anyways, that's my ignorance for football, people. The team that wins the Super Bowl from the previous year, they get the last pick in the first round. That's just traditionally the way it goes. That the worse off you are, the better your draft picks are. And coincidentally, if you win the championship, if you win everything, you get the last pick in the first round. Unless they
32.
Yeah, so 32. So they like Tampa Bay is going to get the 32nd overall pick, but it's going to still be in the first round. So you look at that and it's like, okay, well they're talking about like Tom Brady went 199th overall, but he was drafted in like the 6th round. So he wasn't even, if you looked at his scouting card, it was not favorable, like at all. I mean, they were talking about no vision, small, no mobility.
He was the underdog.
Yeah, I mean, he was every bit of the underdog, but they took a chance on him. Robert Kraft and the crew up there in New England took a chance on this Tom Brady guy, and he turned out to be the GOAT. So, but getting back to this year,
every time someone says that he turned it out to be a GOAT, I keep on thinking about ISIS sex clubs.
No. Different kinds of goats.
Oh, okay.
No. Those are the goats that get like the marinated gyros and kebabs. This is the greatest of all time. So, I mean, you were talking statistically. There's that word again. Statistically, the greatest quarterback that, anybody. We're not going to see another Tom Brady for a very, very long time.
Yeah. And
once he finally decides to hang up the cleats and put the shoulder pads away, we're not going to see. For all intents and purposes, you hear the term generational player. And that's what a lot of people are talking about, like Trevor Lawrence. They're saying he's some kind of a generational player. Like you see him once in a generation kind of a deal. And it may be a little bit of bias on my part, but I feel pretty confident being objective here when I say that Tom Brady was one of those generational players. But just his stature and the system that he played in up in Michigan, he was really kind of overlooked. And the further and further down he fell on the draft charts, he just kind of became, he was like a safe pick, so to speak, for the New England Patriots. They didn't even know that, he was going to go anywhere or he was going to do anything, but it just worked out. And for whatever reason, the mojo up in New England, up in Foxborough, just kind of started to congeal and started to really kind of work. And from 2001 going on, he brought them 6 Super Bowl titles.
Yeah.
So they go from kind of a mediocre mid-level divisional team to a perennial playoff powerhouse. And when he finally decided that, he wanted to move on, and I think that there was some politics behind the scenes with Coach Belichick, things like that ultimately caused Tom Brady to move on and take his talents at South Beach, so to speak. But and I say South Beach, I know, don't fuck with me. I know it's not Miami. Good Lord, and he went to play Tampa Bay, anyways. So I think that there was some animosity starting to brew between Brady and Belichick, and I think Robert Kraft kind of urged Brady out the door a little bit, just for the simple fact that he knew, because Robert Kraft is, whether you view him as a creepy old man or whatever, it doesn't matter. The guy's intelligent, the guy's smart.
He's very monotone.
Yeah, but well, you're thinking Bill Belichick being very monotone.
Yeah.
He'll just sit there with his cutout, his.
I think he's trolling half the time.
I think so too, but I think that Robert Kraft, the owner of the team, he could see the writing on the wall that last year was not going to be a good year for the team, and he didn't want to do that to Brady, and because Belichick he has a lot of responsibility. He's given a lot of sway, a lot of power as far as like draft picks are concerned. And he just wasn't building an offensive powerhouse around Brady like that we had seen in the past. So, and I think that was getting under Brady's skin. So he was allowed to move on, and ultimately he came back and just changed the culture down in Tampa Bay. They got Bruce Arian, which was the head coach for Tampa Bay. I mean, the players got excited. They're like, "We're getting Tom Brady as quarterback. We're gonna."
Yeah, they almost treated it like royalty going down. And,
almost,
and appeasing the masses.
Yeah, and so now that they've won a Super Bowl, I mean, they've locked him up for another 2 years. They locked Rob Gronkowski up for another 2 years.
Who was going to retire?
Well, Rob Gronkowski was retired.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He came out of retirement because even though he was retired, he was still drawing a paycheck, I believe, from New England, because of the way his contract was structured. So they pulled him out of retirement and traded him to Tampa Bay.
Oh, wow.
So I think Tampa Bay won that trade. I really do. But like I said, we were, kind of getting back to this year's draft. They're calling Trevor Lawrence this generational player because he's talking about he's got a multifaceted type of game. He's got accuracy. He's got mobility. He's got arm strength. He's got that football IQ. So, I mean, he can survey the field and kind of really see what's what. He can read coverages. He can read defenses. He can pick up blitzes a lot of times. But I think that it's going to take, because you've got the college level, which basically is just amateur NFL anyway. Of course,
yeah,
depending on
if you look at the scores, you can tell it's amateur because one day the team will end up being like, it would be like 67-0. And then you get into another zone and they're at 0 and the other team is at like 108.
Yeah.
The score, even when it's a matched almost score, you'll have like 67 to like 36. I mean, they're big numbers, but you never really see that all too much in the actual NFL.
Yeah, there's more parity in the NFL. Just basically, the way that the teams are structured, you've got the salary cap, you've got free agency. So, there's a lot of parity in the NFL. Small markets are still trying to compete with the larger market teams like like the New York Giants now. So Philadelphia, they're more of
Is
a
the
mid.
Texans?
The Houston Texans, yeah, they're still a thing.
No. I'm saying, are they high build or they don't?
No, I mean Houston.
I know the Vegas.
The Raiders? Yeah, Raiders.
They're really low.
Yeah,
and so is like.
You get the problem with, I think there was a lot, and I know we're getting off topic here, but whatever, it's kind of our trademark. But
it's still football.
Yeah. So the problem with the NFL is you get a lot of these teams that have that legacy, like for
Green
example,
Bay Packers.
Well, yeah, I mean, for example,
Chicago Bears.
You get a lot. Well, I mean, those are the historically like the core teams before they had all these expansions, but you get these teams that when you put on their uniform, you're expected to perform at a level and bring championships, and it's like for a while there, when New England was on its run, somebody got signed by the Patriots, you were expected to produce. And I mean, you look at teams like the Dallas Cowboys. The last time they won a Super Bowl, their fans have to, in order to rewatch that game, they've got to pull out the VCRs. And I think VHS tapes have only got like a shelf life of 20 years to begin with. So, I mean, it's,
I'm sure they got it saved somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I'm just
you
being
probably
real,
watch it, but yeah,
being real tongue in cheek. But with teams like the Dallas Cowboys, with team, yeah, I'm sure somebody has remastered it somewhere, and you can buy it on DVD or Blu-ray, whatever. You can look up the games on YouTube. But
no, I'm trying to figure out when it was.
It was like '98, I think, was the last time that they won the Super Bowl. They were playing the Steelers. But when I mean, you get these players, they come to these teams like the Dallas Cowboys, like the New York Giants, or even to an extent the 49ers. Now, the 49ers have just kind of wallowed in mediocrity for, I don't know, maybe a decade and a half. I mean, they really weren't all that great since Steve Young left, and he retired. You got the Colin Kaepernick year where he took them to the Super Bowl and then failed miserably against the Ravens. But
actually, it's the anniversary this year. 25 years since they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Cowboys won the Super Bowl was like '95.
Yeah, so we're looking at these teams that have these winning traditions, and my girlfriend's going to kill me for saying this, but I mean, you look at like the fan base of teams like the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboy fans are almost like the New York Yankees fans of baseball,
or zealots.
They're zealot. I mean, they cling to the old teams. I've got that joke where how many Yankees fans does it take to change a light bulb? None, because they're all too busy standing around talking about how great the old one was, and a lot of these football fans, regardless of what team it is that they root for,
it's almost the same way with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get those Steelers fans that they are just in your face, blue collar, die hard, bleed black and gold, and then you got these Dallas Cowboy fans that they're blue and white, but they expect their teams to win it all every year. I think Cowboy fans are.
I like the car that runs around that has all the Dallas Cowboys stuff on it. It's just freaking hilarious.
Oh, yeah, because we got like a couple. Okay, so to kind of give everybody this a little bit of context here, we've got a couple of people here that live in our town that they like to use their cars as artistic expressionist pieces. The
Smurf one.
The Smurf car that's got all the little Smurf figures that you would get. What was that, McDonald's?
Think so, but I think you can order
it glued every Smurf to the outside of his car.
I don't know how he sees or not get arrested.
The guy that I trip out over, remember the guy who used to drive around? I think it was like an '89 or a '92 Toyota Celica, and he had all the duct work and the road cones glued to a damn car.
Oh fuck yeah, I remember that. It was like a. It's like a cheap steampunk vehicle.
Dude, yeah, I'm just sitting there. I'm like,
I was like, what are you trying to accomplish?
I mean,
really, what are you trying to accomplish?
Besides get people to wreck around you, I have no idea. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to make my car look as gaudy as possible so that way other people wreck their nice cars and I'm the one that comes out looking like the good guy. Yeah, whatever. But anyway, so getting back to the draft. With Zach Wilson being expected to be taken by the Jets, quarterbacks and Jets do not mix. I mean, their offensive line is just offensive. They don't block for crap. They don't really have a run game to speak of. I mean, they get lucky on a play or two every now and then. I think Jet fans, for the most part, they go into the season expecting to get their asses kicked. But that doesn't keep them from going to the games. And you have to admire fan bases like that.
Losers like to watch other losers most of the time.
It's the whole misery loves company, but it's just. To me,
I mean, some of
and I say
really
this as a Red
optimized,
and I say this as a Red Sox fan. So I mean, it's like for years. I mean, it was just like I never thought I was going to see my team win a World Series. And then I've been lucky enough. I've been blessed enough to be alive during a period where we rattled off 4 world championships. And I'm like, okay, when's that run going to end? So I can understand looking back and just kind of enjoying those moments in time. But, every new season as the page turns and a new season starts, yeah, you're going to have that degree of optimism.
I'm still surprised that the Cubs won the World Series.
Oh, yeah, back in 2016? But that right Cubs team...
No. What's really amazing about it is Back to the Future actually foresaw it.
Yeah,
I think what they did was like, we're gonna wait until this time frame. That's when we're gonna win.
Yeah, well, I mean, they predicted that the Cubs would have won a World Series, but if you remember watching that movie, they were playing a team from Florida instead of the Cleveland Indians. And to be fair, the Cleveland Indians.
I'm sorry, it was prophecy.
The Indians blew a 3-1 lead in the series. I mean, come on. I mean. Now, do I think that some a degree of cosmic karma had something to do with it? Absolutely, because the closer that Cleveland had that year. No.
It was time travel.
I'm making a very valid point here.
Fine.
Okay, so the closer in the 2016 season, the Indians had Aroldis Chapman as their closer. He was the closer for the New York Yankees, and the New York Yankees, if we're talking about older teams, are the only team in professional sports. It doesn't matter what sport it is. The only team in professional sports when playing a game or when playing a best of 7 series to lose it after being up 3-0. It happened in 2004.
Wow.
When they lost after being up 3-0 to the Boston Red Sox. Best comeback in sports history ever. Anyway. So enough about that. I know that I just went on this little rant about Yankees fans talking about the old teams, but that aside.
You don't do that
no,
like everybody else.
No. I mean, I'm very subtle about it. But yeah, so nobody ever looks forward to playing for the Jets. They just don't. I can't even remember the guys.
Well, you really don't want to go out and play with the special needs teams. Because you're going to beat them, but you don't want to, make it so horrible that everybody hates you. It's like, how could you beat up that special needs kid?
To be fair, I think that the players that play for the Jets, I mean, they go into every week. They go into go through their weekly prep, their practices, their walkthroughs, whatever. They go into the season, and they go into every week of the season with an absolute verifiable chip on their shoulders, and I mean, rightfully they should. Buffalo Bills fans, and the Buffalo Bills for the most part, they did the same thing for years, and they surprised the crap out of everybody last year. I mean, they made it to the playoffs, and the Bills are going to be scary good, I think, going forward, for at least in that division, the AFC East. They're going to be scary good in that division. I mean, because you're not going to really have the threat of New England kind of crouching in there. so much, at least not for a couple more years, because New England, let's face it, I mean, they've had their run. They were a dynasty for a little while there, but they're going to be a rebuild. And because like I said, that Julian Edelman, he just retired, and he was one of the last remaining players from that core group of Super Bowl teams. But we've got a guy going. The 49ers, they made some moves to move up to the number 3 spot.
Yeah, so, that was another thing that I get confused and really don't watch the draft all too much is the trading. Because right, I'll look at it and I was like, oh, okay, this is what's going to happen. And then you watch the actual draft, and I was like, I thought that team was supposed to go 3rd. No, they traded up.
Yeah, so I mean, so this year, the 49ers, they traded. They gave up their first-round picks for next year in the 2023 drafts, and they gave up a third-round pick for this year. So, I mean, they sacrificed a lot to be able to move up that high on the draft board. And they're expected to take Justin Fields, who was the quarterback from Ohio State University. And depending on who hears this, I'm not really sold on Justin Fields. I watched some of the Ohio State games last year. Ohio State had no business being in the college football playoffs last year. They just didn't. They didn't play a full schedule. Their strength of schedule was crap. Texas A&M, far and away, had a harder schedule. They played their full complement of games.
That's another reason why I don't watch college, because the scheduling is
last year was kind of a misnomer. The 2020 season for any and all professional sports, a lot of teams, a lot of conferences, a lot of fan bases would just put a little asterisk by that season, just say, you know what, that one was just kind of a fluke, because everybody played a shortened season. Teams had the option to opt out of playing games and not have it held against them, obviously, because I mean, look at Ohio State. They made it to the national championship game last year, and coincidentally got their asses handed to them, but still, with the shorter seasons and the modified schedules because of the COVID protocols that were in place, you had a lot of these like smaller underdog teams that just happened to hit that hot streak at the right moment. Like last year, the Tampa Bay Rays made it all the way to the World Series. And it's just because they were balling out of their backside. I mean, they were literally, I think the Rays, don't get me wrong, they're a good team. They have the potential to be very, very good for a number of years. It just depends on how the general manager and the ownership group down there handles it. I mean, if they want to blow it apart and rebuild again, and they're gonna drop. But you saw the significance of the games that were played increase multiple fold, and you had just the significance and a lot of times the importance of a streak really kind of become magnified. You get teams like Tampa Bay, they make it all the way to the World Series, and they took the Dodgers, to a Game 6. You had the smallest payroll in baseball playing the largest payroll in baseball, and it took the largest payroll in baseball 6 games to win the World Series. So it just kind of goes to show that streaks matter. Just how you're playing at that particular moment matter. But with Justin Fields from Ohio State, could he be polished into an NFL style quarterback? Yeah. Do I think that he's ever going to obtain that tag of elite? Absolutely not. We're not going to see him on the same level as say like Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, and so it's or even to an extent like Russell Wilson from Seattle. We're not going to see that coming out of Justin Fields, just because he's just not that good. He's going high because of what he did last year. So, they're looking at a very small sample size. And the 49ers are kind of scrambling right now because they got Jimmy Garoppolo as their quarterback. He's not the best in the world. He's got promise, and he can be accurate, but he is streaky. So they're
what does that mean?
So I mean, there's going to be games where he's just like he's on it. His quarterback passer rating is going to be through the roof. He's going to, he'll throw. Well, I'm just throwing a number out there. So I mean, we'll say he'll go like 47 out of 53 for 1 week, and then the next week he'll throw like 4 picks. He'll throw 4 interceptions.
More or less like
when he's on, he's on.
More or less like Tony Romo when they actually get to the.
And I say this because about Tony Romo, to his defense, I was never really a Cowboy fan, but I did like Tony Romo. I didn't like the amount of shit that he got from the fan base or just from the NFL in general, but
he was a good quarterback.
He was a good quarterback. He was very smart as far as play calling was concerned, as far as being able to analyze a defense. But
I don't think the actual team worked with him all too much.
No, and that's the thing. When going back to the point that I was trying to make earlier about these expectations that fans have whenever a player gets signed to their team, the Cowboys are one of the biggest offenders. Or Cowboy fans and the Dallas Cowboys as a whole, they're one of the biggest offenders in this area. Because every year they're expected to win their division. Every year they're expected by their fan base and by the ownership group, we're going to win games, and we're going to go out and we're going to compete. We're going to make it through the playoffs. We're going to, at the very least, we're going to make it to the NFC Championship, or we're going to make it to the Super Bowl. And they try to put all these pieces together and structure the contracts in such a way that it works to keep them under the salary cap. But you're going to get people like Dak Prescott. And I know that if we have anybody who is a discernible Cowboys fan, they are going to give us an absolute raking for this. But I don't think that Dak Prescott is worth the contract that he got. Do I think that at some point in the future he would be worth just shy of what he was asking? Yeah. But he's going to have to do a lot of proving. He's mobile, and he can be accurate at times. Yes, you're going to throw me the argument that he's got one of the higher passer ratings in the NFL. That's great. That's fine. That's basically a sabermetric type number that doesn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things, because if you look at his overall sample, his overall resume as it relates to the course of a regular season, yeah, he can get the wins and he can string them together, but the personnel around him don't work. And it's kind of like you get that old adage, like especially in baseball or like Pro Bowl teams for the NFL. Anytime you get a group of stars or high-profile names together, you're going to have that conflict of personalities. Now, the reason why it worked whenever Jimmy Johnson was the head coach is, when he was
able to manage that.
He was, because he walked into the locker room and he got in people's asses. It didn't matter how many Pro Bowl selections you had. It didn't matter what kind of money you were making. It doesn't matter what category in the NFL that you were leading statistically was. If you were screwing the pooch, he got in your ass about it. And he coached. And I think that Jimmy Johnson was probably one of the last true traditional coaches in the as far as like what you and I would consider to be an actual coach. I mean, he allowed his staff to do their jobs, and he worked well with his staff, but he controlled the players. And it's almost like nowadays you start to see these personalities come in, and they're demanding these high dollar contracts. And I mean, and again, I'm not faulting these players for trying to make the most from their careers before their bodies give out. I'm not faulting them at all. But at the same time, it's like, okay, how committed are you to the system that you're playing for? How committed are you to the team that you're playing for? Your ultimate goal as a player is to want to win championships. Gather as many Super Bowl rings as you can possibly get. Try to cement yourself as a quote-unquote legacy player to potentially one day get into the Football Hall of Fame up there in Canton, Ohio. And I think that you get a lot of these coaches nowadays. They're catering to these college kids that are coming out of school for the draft. They're declaring for the draft, and you look at and I don't want to tag a lot of these newer players with the tag, with the millennial generation tag, but they're just not as tough skinned as players that we grew up watching. And
yeah, because a lot of them nowadays, they have it set up. I mean, this is going back to like nothing like really really new, but they're emphasizing a lot of stuff to where, there was one like a couple of years ago where they brought the mother and they bought her a house near the college.
Yeah.
And a new car and everything. They pampered the mother, but the mother ended up getting all the money and everything like that the college was paying for that player.
Yeah, but you see, the thing of it is that was an NCAA violation, because you can't. I mean, there can't be any like compensation for these players. They can't.
But there's compensation.
And there has to be at some, on some level. But what is the old adage? If you're not cheating, you ain't trying, and if you get caught, you ain't trying hard enough, kind of a thing.
That's most Spec Ops slogans.
Right, but but as it relates to NFL players, yeah, they're bigger, they're faster, they're hitting harder. I mean, and that's fine. That's just a testament to the evolution of the professional athlete. But because everything, as far as when you get to playing sports on that level, everything becomes scientific at that point. So, they're monitoring what these players are taking into their bodies. They're monitoring what they're doing with their bodies.
Yeah, I watched a thing about the Cooks, and it is unbelievable. I mean, they have. Oh God, I wish I knew what team it was. But anyways, they were going out, and the dietitian for that team was literally going up to players like, hey, you're not supposed to eat that. You need to be on this so it could benefit you a little bit more. Right. Or he'll go up to like a lineman that's losing a lot of weight due to like a sickness or something like that, or due to something. And it's like, hey, you need to eat more. Here, take this. Or they take like these jar green supplement stuff and they hand it to them.
Yeah,
I do that a lot. I look at like the catering and stuff like that because
dude, it's nuts.
It is nuts, especially like the longest yard.
Yeah,
or even what was that Clint Eastwood, Heartbreak Ridge?
Yeah,
Swede.
Swede, yeah.
Swede. He was like, I loved working for Clint Eastwood because you ate good. Yeah. I gained like a good 130 pounds just doing that movie.
Yeah.
Because Clint Eastwood feeds you.
Yeah, he does. But they're doing so much more for the bodies of these athletes, but they're not doing anything for the mental capacity of these athletes. They're not doing anything for the maturity levels.
Yeah, those TBIs are no jokes.
Well, no, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about straight frame of mind. You get these kids that come out of college, they get these really big ass contracts, or they find themselves, playing above.
Yeah, they end up,
and they let the money and they let the lifestyle get to them. And I thought for the longest time,
there's some. That's one reason why I like Tony Romo so much. It's because he had all that money and everything. He was still living with his. He had roommates.
Yeah, he had roommates for a while.
For a while, he didn't even buy a house.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really buy a house, I think, until he got married to one of the sportscasters down in Dallas.
And there's the guy that made Black Rifle Coffee's conference table with the
resin.
Well, the resin and the bullet shells and everything that. He's an ex. Josh something. Anyways. I mean, if you look at his house, it's a small house.
Yeah. So
most of his money he went to his wood business.
Yeah. So, but for the longest time, the Dallas Cowboys, they had babysitters for their players. They would go out and they would go to the club, and you'd always hear these reports about so and so player, running back or wide receiver or lineman for this team, that team, they beat somebody up or they hit a stripper or something like that.
Remember that time frame when we got Dallas? I don't think you were here when they had the Dallas Cowboys training up at MSU.
Yeah, no, I was. I think I was here still, but no. No, that's right, because the training camp that was here. 2000. No, it was before that. It was like late '90s. I wasn't back then, but still, yeah, I know what you're talking about. So I mean, anyway, like Troy Aikman was trashing the town because he's like, well, the nightlife here sucks. Well, no shit, dude.
No. What was even worse is I was talking to a cop. He's like, yeah, as soon as they got here, cocaine sale just skyrocketed.
Yeah, so
it was so funny because it just. Talking to like the people that actually secure the town and everything like that, it's when you get something that big in the town and everything, it's like, man, there's so many hookers and cocaine, I don't even fucking remember this shit.
So I mean, just to kind of, I mean, I'm going to wait till next week's episode to really kind of give a go into a breakdown that the draft more or less deserves.
Yeah, because then we'll have the data.
We'll have the data. We'll be able to see what teams picked who. We'll be able to, I mean, because you're going to have people like Mel Kiper, from ESPN. You're going to have tons of people, ESPN, Yahoo Sports, Barstool Sports. They're going to be breaking down.
Drinking Bros.
Yeah, Drinking Bros. They're going to break down this draft. And they're going to start handing out pass and fail grades. I really want to take a look at that stuff. Now, granted, I'm going to be the first one to admit I'm going to be a little bit out of my element going into next week's episode because it's going to be football heavy.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to a buddy of mine that does football. He's very It's kind of a catch-20 on that. He won't be on the show, but he will give his opinion from far away. I'll write some data and get some notes from him.
Yeah, I mean, if anything else, we might be able to do like a draft special episode, whatever. And I mean, we can do a Skype interview with him or something.
We can do it this weekend.
Yeah, but.
Going off of what on that though, tell everybody what you're doing this weekend that you're.
Yeah, so kind of moving forward into baseball. I'm excited. I'm stoked. I haven't been able to go to a live ball game in like 4 years, and I haven't been able to see the Red Sox play in that long either. Yeah,
basically he's been a tripod for the last couple of days.
Yeah, dude. No, I'm taking my boys. I'm taking my dad and my two sons down to Arlington on Sunday, May 2nd, and we're going to go see the Red Sox play the Rangers. And I am excited. I am stoked. I have to temper myself and really kind of dial it back when I start thinking about going down to the game.
No, I've already seen you get into like this little schoolgirl.
Dude, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of funny because he's this masculine man and everything, and it's like me. Well, most people expect it from me, but from you, you're like.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I've actually seen that come from like, it's fucking hilarious.
I had a squee moment, like, but
it's really funny coming from you. Me, not so much because I do it so often. You, on the other hand, it takes like a level. It takes a level that someone has to like go out of the way to do something like really, really ridiculous.
But it's just, I mean, to me, really, that's just kind of a testament to the level of passion that I've got, not only for the game but for that team.
Yeah, if you're really passionate about it, you get so giddy, like a little schoolgirl. I'm half tempted to just. I imagine you actually. It is kind of disgusting at the time, but I still imagine it is with you in a little schoolgirl outfit and everything.
Just stop right there. Don't. Because you're just going to dig yourself a hole that you will not be able to get out of. And I don't want to have to answer those questions, especially to your family or the police, as to what happened with your body. So don't. Let's just not go there.
Yeah, they don't understand. It's like they said something stupid again.
But
it was like.
But yeah, no. I mean, the seats. Yeah, don't get me wrong. The new Globe Life Field. The seats can get expensive, and some of those ticket prices are ridiculous. I'm going to take a ton of pictures.
And we'll post them on our Facebook page.
Yeah, I'm going to take a ton of pictures. We'll post them online. And it's just, I mean, because I'm sitting, was it section 27, which is going to be a damn near straightaway center field. It's more left center. It's row 5. I mean, we're sitting just above the field, and I can't wait. I mean, one, it's new ballparks. I mean, I'm going to be able to say, hey, you know, like I've been to a game at that field. With the way that the Rangers have been playing, the way that the Red Sox have been playing, it's going to be a good game. I mean, I'd say that I'm being a little biased, but if you look at the numbers, just based on run differential alone, I mean, the Red Sox on paper, I mean, they're going to, yeah. So
that's what's really sad.
They're going to take care of that. But
that's one thing.
Now, I say that.
Get excited.
And, you know, I'm not trying to jinx myself, but yeah.
Baseball is really a numbers game.
It is, and annoyingly so.
I mean, look at Moneyball.
Well, yeah, because I mean, what they started introducing that sabermetrics, you know, and you get a lot of players that they start to buy into it. You get like Trevor Bauer, he's buying into it now, and he's got a podcast where he does YouTube episodes, and he's talking about angles and velocity and spin rates, and he's really breaking his game performances down, and he gives that back to the fans, and I admire that kind of engagement, and it really kind of intimatizes the game. And
it's really interesting when a player is that geeking on the game.
Yeah, you know, and yeah, exactly. So I mean, he geeks out on it. He wants to break it down not only for his betterment, but for the fans' understanding,
or for the show nerding out.
But you know, it's you know, it's kind of cool just to kind of look at some of the individual storylines that happened during the course of a week in the game. So I mean, like Shohei Ohtani, he's a two-way player. He plays for the Anaheim Angels. Came over from Japan a few years ago, and I think like 2 or 3 years ago. But he pitches and he plays in the field.
I was wondering if they trade players from Japan. Because Japan has a big following for baseball.
Yeah, I mean, Japan, they are passionate about the game.
I have a story about the Tokyo Giants. and it's nerdy.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a second. When you get players coming over from Japan, when they declare eligibility for the international for international free agency, they have to be released by their clubs over there. Mm-hmm. Like with the Korean baseball league over there, the KBO, when a Korean baseball player wants to play in the U.S., I mean, that's an expensive process, and whatever team ends up getting that player pays the club that owned him like an incredible amount of money. And you usually see these large contracts, but a majority of that money is going to the team that he used to play for. And I mean, you had like Ichiro Suzuki. One of the all-time hits leaders for for Major League Baseball. I mean, the guy's got. I mean, Ichiro was one of those. He was one of those generational players, like we were talking about earlier. But Shohei Ohtani, he pitches. I mean, the dude's good. I mean, he really is. He's a great pitcher. He can swing a really good bat. Defensively, he's pretty sound as far as like being out in the outfield, and you know, because a lot of times you'll see him if he's in the hitting, if he's in the lineup as a hitter, he's usually like a designated hitter, or he'll play the outfield. But I think a lot of times they've got to play in DH. But it's kind of fun to see how Joe Madden, who's the manager for Anaheim, how he handles Ohtani. Because I mean, you can't go out and pitch every day if you're pitching as a starter because you're wear and tear on your arms. Pitch count gets up, you just blow your arm out. So I mean, he can only start every 5th day. And last night they were playing down in Arlington. They were playing in Texas, and he won his first game as a pitcher since 2018 last night, and he struck out 9 batters. He drove in 2 RBIs of his own. So he was literally playing both ways last night. The Anaheim went without the designated hitter last night because Ohtani was pitching and he was in the lineup as a hitter. So they played a National League style game as an American League team, which it's kind of cool to see that crossover dynamic. If you've got the ability to do that and you need players that go both ways like Ohtani does, and it's kind of fun to see how that is a thing now in the game. I mean, it used to be that way all the time until I forget what year that they introduced the designated hitter. I think it was like the 60s. But in the American League, we've had the DH for 30, 40 years now, 50 years, I think, actually. And it's made managerial jobs in the American League a lot easier. Now, when they start playing in the National League Park, they got to play without the DH. The pitcher's got to hit. And a lot of pitchers that pitch in the American League, they either hate it or they love it because they get to swing a bat. So it's, they get in there and, because a lot of players up to a certain point, when you're pitching, you pitch through little leagues or, through high school and even up into college sometimes, pitchers play both ways. Now, when they get drafted and they go play in the minor leagues or, they play in the show, they have to become a one or the other. So, you get a lot of guys that are talking about, well, this is going to be my last at bat because after this I'm a pitcher only. And they just kind of leave those skills off to the side. And you see that really start to become a liability, especially if they go play for a National League team where they do have pitchers in the lineup to hit. You're going to get your pitchers like Madison Bumgarner or Max Scherzer. They love to hit. And like Bumgarner, he's a great pitcher still, but he loves to hit, and he's got a good bat. He really does. He's got a couple home runs too. I'm like, man, that's cool. And I'm going to touch on Madison Bumgarner here in just a minute because there is a story that developed with him over the last day or two. But and I'll actually just kind of get to it now. But one of the new rules going into this season is that whenever a doubleheader is played, the games that are played on that day are both 7-inning games, and because baseball is normally a 9-inning game, and they introduced this rule this year as a pace of play kind of concept to increase the pace of play to make games shorter, and
yeah, because it was another thing I couldn't really stand out too much watching the games because they would be drawn out so long at times.
Well.
Especially if it was a tie.
As a purist, as somebody who's a fan of the traditional game, I'm not a big fan of the 7-inning game. Just like I'm not a big fan of the extra inning rule where you start your at-bat with a runner on second. And
really?
So, yeah. And again, it's just to increase the pace of play. And
that's ridiculous.
It's one of the reasons why I'm a big proponent of getting Rob Manfred out of the commissioner's seat because this guy is just doing nothing but trying to destroy the game. He's more about optics than anything else.
Yeah, it's like he's gotten the job. He got the job, and he got the job just to be like a Hydra agent.
Yeah, and you want to add that nerd reference. Yeah, Rob Manfred comes in there, and he's just claims to love the game, but at the same time, he's doing everything that he can to introduce these rules that are just dumb.
We need to get into his office and everything and whisper in a voice Hell Hydra and see if Hell Hydra's back.
Oh God.
That way we know he's evil and we need to take care of him.
Right. But Madison Bumgarner, he plays for he pitched for the Giants for years. When his contract was over, he signed a free agency deal with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And
I'm going to make a video of just Hell Hydra and the commissioner. I'm going to make just a short little 5-minute video.
And I think that if we get that out on the right platforms, it'll get a lot of play.
Oh, yeah.
But Madison Bumgarner threw a no-hitter during a 7-inning, all 7 innings. See, it was listed as a complete game, but Major League Baseball refuses to acknowledge it as an official no-hitter because it was not thrown over 9 innings. But it's like they need to make that decision. Right? Is it a complete game, even though it was only 7 innings? Or are you going to say it's a no-hitter? Because you can't have both.
It sounds so complicated.
Well,
okay,
it doesn't because in the stats, okay, they assign a winner, they assign a loser, and your numbers of innings pitched still counts toward your overall count toward the end of the year, statistically speaking. Like you hear about these pitchers that go like 4 2/3 innings or 5 1/3 or something like that. Because that relates to the number of outs that they get the following innings. So like you pitch your 4 innings and you're pitching into the 5th, and you get pulled out after recording 2 outs. You've pitched 4 2/3 innings. Okay, that's how that works. So. And depending on how far you get into the game and where the score is at, dictates whether or not you're scored with a win or a loss or a no decision. Okay, so they're still doing all that, like it's on par, like they're considering it 9 innings. I mean, they're treating the statistics the same way. I think that, and a lot of people believe this too. It's like, give Bumgarner credit for throwing a fucking no-hitter, because this guy, he goes out there and he keeps a major league team off the bases. Nobody recorded a hit over the course of that of the defined length of that game. That game was played to its completion, and he did not give up a hit. I think that it should be counted as an official no-hitter. But because the people in baseball, specifically the head office, the competition committee, the rules committee, they're looking at it like, well, he didn't throw it over 9 innings, so it's not an official no-hitter. Like, well, then it shouldn't be.
If you played a game to its full extent, even if it was 7 to 9 innings, it was a full game.
Right.
Consider to your statistics of what a full game is. It might be 7, it might be 9, but it was a full game,
right?
No hitter.
But as it related to those doubleheader games, they're played 2 7 innings for the sake of pace. And I mean, because if we're going to stop doing things like counting no-hitters, or let's just say he would have gone out and thrown a perfect game over 7 innings, they wouldn't have counted that as a perfect game.
It's like telling,
because if you're going to sit there and change the rules, you're going to sit there and modify the way that the game is played. You need to do it across the board, because consistency is everything. Because any and every time, it's like when an umpire screws the pooch on a strike call. They're going to call a ball. They're going to call a pitch that's 4 or 5 inches outside the strike zone or off the plate, and they're going to call it a strike. But then the other pitcher from the other team gets out there and throws the same pitch, and he gets it called a ball. Come on, you need to be consistent. If you're going to call it one way, you need to call it that way the rest of the game. You need to call it that way the rest of the season or whatever. As far as like strike zone stuff, I mean that's up for debate. I mean that the strike zone can evolve.
Could you imagine if that ruling was during Nolan Ryan's reign?
Oh, Nolan Ryan probably. I mean, the problem with athletes today, I mean, they've got their social media platforms. They can get out there. They can say anything. But with players that we grew up watching, your Nolan Ryans, your
King Griffey Jr.,
your Griffey Juniors,
Bo Jackson.
Well, Bo Jackson was really he was a soft-spoken guy. I mean, he let the performance on the field speak for itself, and that's what I admired about him. But, I mean, you're talking about like your Nolan Ryans, your Griffey Juniors, your Greg Maddoxes. I mean, these guys were just powerhouses, and they garnered that respect because of the way that they played the game. When they spoke out about something, baseball listened, because you didn't have the dilution or the diluted. Social media dilutes things. So don't get it confused that just because it's out there, it's saturated. Because of the dispersion capabilities of social media, I think that it dilutes a lot of the messages that are out there. And you can shout down somebody that has a valid point if you get enough people behind you. If you get a tweet that goes viral, they're going to treat that almost like it's gospel, versus somebody who made the educated, took the time and the energy to make an educated statement. If it's not popular, they're going to get shouted down because somebody else who believes the status quo, or they're regurgitating the talking points from the ruling party, they're going to be the vocal minority at that point, and it's going to make the solid, educated statement or opinion invalid. And I think that's the downfall of social media, is that because we can shotgun blast stuff out there, you're not really looking for accuracy. And with the fact that Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred's got a team of social media experts. That's all that they do. I work for Major League Baseball, but you sit in a basement or you sit in an office somewhere downtown in New York City at the Major League Baseball headquarters, and you monitor social media accounts for every player. And if they tweet something or put something on their Facebook page or post something on their Instagram or YouTube channel, whatever your platform is, if it's considered incendiary, or if it's considered divisive, you're gonna receive a pre-printed letter from Major League Baseball talking about suspensions or fines or both. And
do they do that with all sports, or is it just NBA?
No, they do it with all sports. Now the NBA, not so much, because I think that the NBA they
because I know LeBron James.
So
LeBron James got like freaking lit on fire.
Yeah, he got lit up because I mean, literally that dude spoke out of turn. I mean, don't get me wrong. LeBron James has got all the talent in the world, and that's fine. That's one thing. But the second you open your mouth and you use your status as a professional athlete to push a narrative that you didn't even take the time to research, I mean, come on, man. That's not a good look. He got lit up, and rightfully so. I mean, he has been gotten onto by people who are in the Hall of Fame for the NBA and analysts and other players. And players from other sports like soccer, football, even some baseball players.
Even
he got lit up for his for him using his platform, his status as a professional basketball player to push a narrative. And they were like, "Look, dude, you just need to shut up and play." And of course he doesn't listen because he's King James. I say King James, and it's like
I wouldn't even give him that title.
Well, he gave it to himself. And it just kind of stuck, and it's unfortunate because you shouldn't be able to pick your own damn nicknames. But anyways, digress. So he got lit up, and rightfully so. And don't get me wrong. I mean, the amount of latent racism that exists there, and I'm not talking about the NBA, I'm not talking about the NFL, I'm not talking about hockey, I'm not talking about football or baseball or racing, whatever. I'm talking about the amount of latent racism, and it's not even latent. I mean, to this point, it's kind of blatant. It's up in your face. The amount of racism that exists within LeBron James it's embarrassing. I want to say it's laughable, but it's really not because, I mean, when you're talking about racism, there's nothing funny about it. So, I mean, it's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for his family, because he's espousing these views, and he's thinking that, well, just because I'm LeBron James, I'm going to get away with this. Well, dude, at a certain point, your golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory is going to be invalid because you had, just like in the movie, you had to be at the front gates at a certain time on a certain day to get into the damn place. He's wearing it out.
And to the point where no one's listening to him anymore.
Yeah, I mean, when you were openly, and for all intents and purposes, he should have been brought up on charges for threatening a police officer. That's an assault.
Now,
you and me, or anybody else who's not LeBron James, goes out and we threaten a police officer saying, "You're next." Okay, that's what that tweet was. He put the picture of that cop that shot that Bryant girl up on his Twitter feed and said, "You're next." How else was that supposed to be interpreted? He's going to sit there and try to spin it. No, sir, I'm sorry. You're not getting to pass go. You're not getting to collect $200. He should have been brought up on charges, but he's not. You know why? Because he's LeBron James, and he's getting that free pass.
I think a lot of the cops wanted actually to do that.
And unfortunately, I think it's going to come to a point when police officers are going to refuse to attend these events, these sporting events, to provide security for the people that trash them constantly. What was it the other day? I think it was yesterday. There was a picture on Twitter that kind of surfaced and started circulating. LeBron James, I think he's walking around in New York or something like that. Don't quote me on what city it was. But he's walking around, and the caption on it was like, for somebody who spends the majority of his time trashing police, he seems to need them a lot, because he's walking down the sidewalk, and he's surrounded by police officers who are guarding his dumbass.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I mean, we can go into the whole gun argument. It's like, yo, you want to take away guns from the law-abiding citizens of this country, but the same people that are writing these laws, trying to take these, take that constitutional amendment. They've got armed bodyguards, and it's like, look, you can't live by that double standard. You have to live one way or the other. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Marie Antoinette, she got her head cut off for a reason. So it's like, all right. Don't be that way. Do not show yourself off as some kind of elitist just because you play a sport. You get paid a lot of money for it. You have people buying your jerseys and buying your shoes and spending way too much money in the process.
And sponsored by China.
So I mean, it's like, okay, look, we get it. We understand where you're coming from, but if you're going to make a political statement like that on your social media platform, take the time to pull your head out of your ass and use your brain for something besides for something besides keeping your ears apart. And it's like, okay, what is it? Common sense was an issue, but we need to use it anyway.
Yeah.
So, I've bit my tongue and I've held my tongue and I've just really kind of tried to keep my mouth closed about the whole LeBron James issue. Just simply, one, because it's a very charged, polarizing subject. Two, I mean, obviously, I've demonstrated up to this point that I'm very opinionated about the way that LeBron James has handled himself and the things that he says. But, and it's like, and honestly, and I hate it for the studio that pumped all the money into this Space Jam sequel, but I think that tweet, ultimately, couldn't have come at a worse time for this movie because, I mean, with Space Jam 2 is fixing to come out a month or two.
I'm still not watching it. I miss Michael Jackson. Michael Jordan.
Thank you for correcting yourself because I was really going to bust your chops about that one. But
it had an M and J in it.
Right. Anyways. Jesus. So... And I think that to an extent, the social media aspect that we, or society that we live in nowadays. Remember, so you remember a couple of weeks ago we were talking about how people are just, they've forgotten what it means to get punched in the mouth for something you said.
Yeah.
Again, I think social media is a detriment to a lot of these, professional athletes. I'm not saying that they can't have these social media accounts. I'm all for the freedom of speech. I'm all for the freedom of expression. But it's become a tool. It's become a weapon. It's been weaponized by these players and by these personalities, these actors, actresses, these producers, and directors. Hollywood in itself is kind of, for the most part, lost touch with the people that are trying to entertain, the people that are paying their salaries.
Well, on that note, what's really sad about that, it's not really Hollywood, because nowadays most of the people that are actually financing these movies and everything, it is China, because they're the actually biggest grossing of paying that.
Yeah.
Saying that, though.
Okay, so off topic a little bit. We just had the Oscars. The lowest rated.
Yeah, it was like 60%.
That was a drop, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So it was like, everybody was, they had several people that were accepting awards and they get up on the stage and they were trashing the police. The last time that I even remotely gave a shit about the Oscars was when Ricky's...
No, that was the Emmys.
Oh, yeah, it was the Emmys. He tweeted out just before the Oscars, he goes, "Did you forget to invite me this year? Did I say something wrong?" And he put the GIF of his Emmy speech up there, and I was like, "Man, that's well played."
Yeah, and I still like the little meme that with Tom Hanks
cringing. Yeah,
and you have Adam Driver, ex-Marine.
Yeah, ex-Marine, ex-grunt. He's over there laughing his ass off, like when everybody in the room is getting torched, and you're the only one finding it funny, and it just shows him over there with that shit-eating grin. He's like, "Yeah, oh man, I've got my damn flak vest on. I'm good to go. You bring that shit on. Danger close. Let's go." But
I'll watch him in anything.
Yeah, moving on. Hey, I was like, my brain clicked for a second. I'm like, did that just happen?
Did he say that?
Did he
Fucking
say
out
that?
loud?
Oh my God.
Another episode your kid can't watch.
No. God, please, just dear God.
I can find it and edit it out. That's quick edit.
Anyway, so yeah, we're gonna kind of wrap up baseball here a little bit.
Was there any other news for the last bit of?
There's been rumors that Aaron Judge is going to They're going to start shopping. The New York Yankees are going to start shopping Aaron Judge around for trades to try to get rid of him and improve their team. Or Aaron Judge last night he got thrown out at third playing against the Orioles. Just aggressive base running. I don't fault the guy for being aggressive.
Is it sad that the only reason why I know how to spell Aaron anymore is because of that Keenan and Pill?
You done fucked up, Ron? Yeah.
Ron.
Ron. But yeah, so
okay.
I mean, it's always delightful, and it'll continue to be delightful for me to report that the Yankees are in last place in the American League East Division. While yes, my beloved Sox are in first place by 2 games as of this morning. They had the night off last night. But they're playing the Mets for 2 games, and then they're coming to Texas for a 4-game series, culminating on May 2nd, which is a Sunday game. That is a 1:30 Central Time start. I will be in the stands. Hallelujah! I cannot wait. But moving on, yeah, I mean, really not a lot of time to really kind of properly go over everything that happened in baseball because of the build-up to the NFL draft. Try to get back into some of the storylines and have a more in-depth breakdown next week. But really, next week we're going to kind of I'm going to have to cut out a couple of different storylines. Maybe unless something very exciting happens in racing next week, I'll leave racing out of it. But because I really kind of want to get back into baseball, but I know that the NFL draft, that's going to be the big thing that's going to be on a lot of people's mind. Really want to get into that as well. I'll try to do my best to give that the due diligence and justice that it deserves. But to kind of go over racing, last week we talked about how there was the race this past Sunday was at Talladega.
Mm-hmm. I remember
that was a fun race to watch. Joey Logano, cannot stand Joey Logano, and I've stated that before. He drives the number 22 car for Roger Penske. There was a wreck. He ended up on his roof. Car turned sideways. Air got up underneath the car, and he started to tumble. And actually landed on another car and just kind of skipped off of it. And, of course, he gets out of the car. He gets checked out and released by the infield care center.
Is Joey
Logano? Yeah.
Yeah, he's on a ventilator right now.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
ARCC oh, no. Is that?
That's an ARCA driver.
Oh,
and
okay.
that wreck, a fuel line came disconnected, car caught fire.
Crap.
Yes, I mean, the ARCA...
I'm saving this photo.
Yeah. The ARCA races, they're fun to watch, and these are guys that are financing these teams for the majority part themselves. They're their own mechanics. They set their cars up. They go out to these tracks, and they follow that circuit around, and they try to get that look from some of these like Xfinity Cup team or these Xfinity Series teams to get a ride at the next level. And the ARCA guys are just fun to watch. I mean, they drive a lot of the older cars. The safety features are all still the same. They have to be up to a certain, up to par at a certain point. But you're going to have those freak accidents where things like a fuel line, breaks and car catches fire. And
I mean, it is underneath the freaking chassis of the vehicle.
Yeah, so I mean, it's yeah. I mean, when one of those cars.
Watch this bump right here. Oh.
Yeah, so I mean, it's
Talladega. Did he hit something?
No, I think that just from the, physics and metallurgy, those are kind of like.
And he just kept on going.
Well, at that point, you're traveling at close to 200 miles an hour. And you can't exactly
you have to make a safe stop.
You can't exactly just slam on the brakes. I mean, because you slam on the brakes, when you're going that fast, you have to actually warm your brakes up. So, I mean, you don't have to come out of the throttle, but you can drag your brake pedal a little bit while you're still in the gas, and you can warm those brake pads and those brake rotors up so that way the friction has something to grab. Because otherwise you're going to lock your wheels up and you won't have any control as to where your car is going at that point. So that's why, especially places like Talladega or Daytona, you hear about these green flag pit stops. You hear the announcers talk about the drivers. Some of these drivers, they're going to have to warm their brakes up in order to make that transition, because you're going from 200 miles an hour to 55.
And it's also good to warm up the tires too.
Well, no, the tires are warm enough as it is, because I mean they're traveling. When you see them before they come to a restart, you see them moving back and forth. They're scrubbing the crap off their tires, and they're trying to get that rubber warmed up. And I mean, with the track temperatures alone, plus with the fact that the car. I mean, the inside of those cars gets up to sometimes 130 degrees sometimes. So and plus with, just with friction created by going through those turns, those tires, they're trust me, they're plenty warm. So, but when it relates to stopping, when you're traveling that fast, yeah, while your brake rotors and your brake pads, they're going to be hot. They're not going to be warm enough for the brake pads to grab without locking it up, because you want to be able to have that ability to control your car at any speed. And when you're going 200 something miles an hour, if you look at a lot of the video footage, whenever these cars are going down the track, I mean, they're tucked up right underneath each other. So what that does is that second car, it doesn't have any air going to the nose. There's nothing coming in to that front grille, cooling the engine down. It's not going through the brake ducts to cool those. It's not providing enough air to the front of that car to help the operation of those brakes. And so you'll see those as they're coming off to pit. They're coming out of turn 4 and they're coming down onto that flat area, getting it, trying to slow down enough to get onto pit road speed, because there's a cone at the end of pit road, or the opening of pit road. They have to be at pit road speed when they hit that cone, because then there's timing loops all the way down pit road, and there's no speedometers in those cars. They're all tachometers. So they before the start of the race, they'll get the entire field out on track. They'll get 2 pace cars and they'll break them up into 2 groups. The pace car sets the pace, which is why they call it the pace car. So usually it's like 55 miles an hour.
It's like they learned something.
Well, what they do is they get a certain distance behind the pace car, and they look, okay, all right, we know that the pace car is going 55 miles an hour. There's a dial that you can adjust on the dash of your car, on the tachometer, where it's like, okay, if I'm in second gear, I'm turning 5,500 RPMs at second gear. They'll know that that's pit road speed. And what they'll do is they'll push a button. The driver will reach up and they'll push a button on the dash or on their display.
Most of the time, it's actually on the steering wheel.
No, it's not.
It's not?
Nope. On the steering wheels of Cup cars, of NASCARs, you've got a radio button and a kill button.
Oh,
okay.
Man. Because most of like Formula One,
IndyCar, yeah, they've got that set up there. But they've got speedometers in those cars, and it'll tell you how fast you're fucking going. It'll tell you what gear you're in on those digital displays. Yeah. But when you're talking about NASCAR, I mean, everything is based off of that tachometer. And there's a series of lights. So if you're within, if you're at that pit road tolerance, here's the number of RPMs I need to turn in this gear to be at this speed, to not be speeding on pit road. Your lights will be green, but the second that they turn yellow or red, you're speeding at that point. You need to back it down before you hit that next timing loop. But when you're slowing down from that speed to get to pit road speed, which again I think it's 55 miles an hour at Talladega, I could be wrong, but you have to. I mean, it's really, when we talked about synchronized swimming as kind of like a tongue-in-cheek thing. I mean, it's a synchronized movement. I mean, it all works in concert. And you'll get that one guy that doesn't warm his brakes up, and he'll lock it up and spin out trying to get onto the pit road or whatever. Or you'll get somebody that comes in too hot and they lock them up trying to get down, get their car to slow down before they hit that commitment cone. But it's really, I mean, just watching these guys do this, knowing, okay, well, you sit in a car and you're not doing anything, I mean, you used to hear that argument that drivers aren't athletes. Bull crap. I mean, these guys are complete. I mean, some of these guys, yeah, they look a little, Pillsbury Doughboy around the middle, but for the most part, these guys are studs. I mean, they're athletes. I mean, they get out there, they train, they run, they ride bikes, they lift, and they have to be in a degree of physical shape to drive these cars, and they have to have that built-in endurance, that stamina, in order to be able to operate at those temperatures inside the cockpits of those cars for the amount of time that they're in there. They may be only driving 500, maybe 600 miles, depending on caution laps, overtimes, things like that.
I just thought of something.
What's that?
I was like, if you need to lose a little bit of weight on the vehicle and everything, if you urinate yourself, should I do that?
You will find.
I remember a driver saying that. It's like one time I had to piss myself.
Oh yeah,
lose a little bit of weight so I can get a little bit more speed.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you got to take a piss during a race and you're a driver, you don't have a piddle pack like a pilot does. I mean, you piss in your damn fire suit. But a lot of times, I mean, these guys, they sweat so much under those fire suits that they really don't have the need to pee.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
they need to get more fluid in them.
Yeah, I mean, they have water going in to their helmets, but I mean, you'll see. I mean, these guys. I mean, sometimes they'll lose up to 10 pounds during a race if it's in the middle of the summer, and like if they can go to Las Vegas, and they're running a race in Las Vegas, or they're running a race here down at Texas Motor Speedway. Or even at Charlotte Motor Speedway, where they have like the Coke 600 on Memorial Day. Mm-hmm. That's a 600-mile race, the longest race of the year. It can be really devastating, and you have to be in shape in order to run those races, to be able to operate those cars.
Yeah, because there's an endurance.
Yeah, it is. It's endurance. I mean, these guys are. I mean, you got all these different personalities.
It's like the Le Mans.
Yeah,
Le Mans is like a
24-hour
race.
Yeah, the Rolex series. I mean, those are endurance races. But with the temperatures that these guys in these stock cars. I mean, these stock cars are heavy. I mean, they're like 3,800 pounds or something like that. But I mean, they don't run air conditioners in these cars because you only get a certain amount of amperage to operate that vehicle with, and you've got all these different systems in the car, all these different components of the car that require voltage. The crew chiefs and the car chiefs, they have to set that stuff up. They have to budget the power that they get in that car. That's why the radios are run on batteries. They're walkie-talkies. They put them down. There's a pouch on the inside of the door right here. What they'll do is they'll put the radio in the car, set it in that pouch. I mean, the battery's got a full charge on it at the start of the race. They put the antenna runs up to the antenna on the roof, and then they've got the mic piece that runs up into the driver's ear, and it's usually plugged into like the helmet or something. They'll key the mic. There's another wire that runs off that radio to the steering wheel to where they can key that mic. That's that curly retractor, or that curly cable that's attached to the steering wheels. You see a lot of them. That's for the radio. You watch the race, and then when the commentators up in the booth is calling down, they're talking to some of the drivers live, like during a caution or something like that. You'll see that driver reach up to a steering wheel, and you'll see him pushing a button. That's because he's talking. That's where the radio button is on the steering wheel. But Talladega lived up to its billing. I mean, we had wrecks, we had blown engines, we had last lap chaos, and it didn't disappoint.
Very dramatic.
Yeah, it was actually. It was really dramatic. You had Joe Logano, who ended up on his roof, and he was the first car out of the race, and it was like during the first stage of the race. And he gets released from the infield care center, and they're going over there to interview him. And I mean, we get it. Remember, I told you last week, there's two different camps as far as Talladega is concerned. He wasn't bitching about Talladega when he won, but on Sunday, he was like, "When are we going to stop? When are we going to stop? Because this is just dangerous." It's like, dude, be consistent. Quit being a whiny turd. Drive your damn car. You know, it's like, but, you know, at the same time, you want him to have that personality because the sport's got to have its heroes. It's got to have its villains. Absolutely, 100%. I'm not saying that Joey Logano is a villain because, you know, he's more like he's like a mid-level boss, you know. He's not like a Kyle Busch like Kyle Busch used to be. I mean, people just hated Kyle Busch. And, you know, to be honest, I'm not a big Kyle Busch fan, but I do like the way that he handles himself in the car. I mean, the guy knows how to drive. Absolutely. I mean, you give him enough time to adjust his car, he can make it work. You know, I mean, the guy's got over the 3 different series that he's competed in. He's competed in the trucks, the Xfinity, and the Cup Series. He's got over 200 wins. So, I mean, his trophy case speaks for itself. But absolutely, the spring race for Talladega it didn't disappoint. Brad Keselowski won his first race of the year there this past Sunday, and I mean, it just stereotypical. I mean, he had a strong car. He led 1 lap on Sunday, and he led the most important lap. I mean, right there at the end. You had a lot of comers and you had a lot of goers, a lot of the in-between guys, and just the storylines around those super speedway races. We used to call them restrictor plate races because of the cars used to be carbureted, so they would put these tapered restrictor plates on the air intake for the intake manifold underneath the carburetor, and it reduced the amount of air coming into the engine, so it reduced the amount of horsepower being made, right? Now they put these taper plates on there because the engines are now fuel injected. But they still kind of taper down the horsepower that these engines make. They change the aerodynamic packages on these cars to affect the way that they drive in traffic. But at those speeds, I mean, it's still how well and alert these drivers are behind the wheel. You'll hear drivers talk about a lot of times that whenever they're in the lead at Talladega, they don't look out their front windshield. They're driving in the mirror a lot because they're looking to see what lines develop, who's got the momentum, where do I need to go to block, do I need to stay home, what do I got to do? And it's just at those speeds, you have to be on top of your game. But that's really kind of all I had for this week. I know that I missed a lot, and I know that we got way off into the weeds a little bit there, especially when we were talking about LeBron James. But
that was a good episode. We can close it from here. Last thing, the Tokyo Giant story with Stan Lee.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, go ahead.
What happened was a friend of mine's friend in Japan. He basically his job is to take celebrities around Japan. He's an interpreter and he high dollar.
Yeah.
Well, he had Stan Lee, and he was making sure everything was good for Stan Lee. Because he was a Stan Lee nerd, too.
Yeah.
Anyways, he goes up, and the Tokyo Giants wanted to meet him. Well, every time he went into the executive suite that Stan Lee should have been staying in, his manager was kept on saying, it was like, oh, Stan Lee's not here. Let me go ahead and give it to the manager. Take everything that's for Stan Lee into the... not executive suite, but like a cheap suite.
Yeah.
Well, every time he'd take it to the cheap suite, Stan Lee was there. He's like, oh, okay, I guess the manager's talking with Stan Lee or make sure he's okay and everything like that. Come to find out, he ended up finding out that the manager had switched the rooms with Stan Lee and told Stan Lee to stay in the cheap room while he stayed in the executive suite room.
Right.
And he got so pissed. And he talked to Stan Lee about it. I was like, why are you staying in this room and not in the executive suite? It's like, oh, no, that's his room. No, this is my room. He's like, who told you that? He was like, my manager. He had the Tokyo Giants there, and they're fucking big boys, and they were about to beat beat the crap out of that manager's ass. There is a story that came out right before he passed, how the manager was basically doing
elderly abuse.
Yeah.
Elderly abuse. Yeah.
Yeah. And someone asked me, "He's like, do you believe this? You think the manager?" I was like, "No. He did do that. And if it came around to it, and if I was there and I saw his manager, I would freaking beat the crap out of him, because he was just that manager. Stan Lee's manager was a piece of shit."
Yeah. I mean, and it's unfortunate too, but
yeah. But we can go ahead and close on that. I'm David Dickerman.
Johnny Skelton.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah. Those, like, subscribe, smash that bell for the notifications, leave some comments, get engaged.
Look at the description. We'll have the website to get our only shirt that's on there,
and we will work on that.
I got another shirt. One of the shirt ideas. I'm gonna probably talk to the shirt guy and see if we can get it made. Maybe get a couple, about 50 of them. But,
yeah, definitely.
But we'll catch you next time on Sporting Events next Tuesday, and we'll talk about the draft.
Yeah, we'll talk about the draft, and we'll go over the game that I'm going to go to on Sunday. And but until then, y'all keep it classy.
Yeah.
See you later.
Bye.